Hey guys, Chase here. I'm currently working on some rental guns from my local field. They charged me with getting a few of the guns that were not working properly up to ship shape. I already got 2 of them done, but I decided that I would record and see if I could make something semi-interesting out of this. So this one, they gave me a little tag that says that it's got a grinding motor on it. Let's see, I guess, what that's all about first, because I don't even know if it actually is the motor grinding. For all I know, it could be gears. But let's just plug her in here and see what we can find out about this gun. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take my little flathead and let's just drive that in a little bit more until it starts feeling some resistance, just to make sure that it's seated approximately where it should be. These are rental guns, so these are kind of beaters. You see, it sounds okay. So if you're getting any sort of grinding, what you want to do is, what I do is I kind of play on this. You can hear it. It sounds a little bit chunky, so I'll back it out a little bit, and then it's for sure grinding there. It's getting worse. Then that spins, so it's got to be right. Okay. Okay, so something is clearly wrong. Let's figure out what it could possibly be. I think I have a guess, but we're going to find out if I'm correct. Because if I am correct, this will be a little bit easier than having to get inside the gearbox, which I had to do on the first gun, and it took me about 2 hours to fix, because I was just trying to find out. I was trying to figure out what the problem truly was and trying to diagnose it. I knew what was wrong. I just couldn't quite figure out how to fix it. So these are interesting little rental guns as far as rental guns go. They use a switch rather than like a trigger trolley like the old TMs use and a lot of guns use. So, okay, not really seeing anything significant on this. It could very well be the shimming on my bevel gear, but let's just see if I can't figure out where it needs to be in here for it to shoot properly. For all I know, this could have just been popped in here wrong. Make sure that's down in there good and tight. Now, the reason I don't think it's a bevel gear is because it's doing it over the entire stroke of the... There you are. All right, I lost my screw. Where was I? The reason I don't think that it's the bevel gear is because it's doing it over the entire cycle rather than at just any one particular point. Usually if you have a bevel gear go bad, it'll kind of do a cycle and then it'll get stuck wherever the bevel gear isn't anymore, and cause itself some agony there. But this isn't really doing that. Okay. That's not good. It's definitely backing itself out. That's way too tight, but we're getting there. Maybe we're not. Okay, so clearly still not getting anything out of that. The best go-to strategy, just to make sure that your motor works here, I'll show you. Yeah, my motor wires are good. Okay. Yep, okay, I know what's going on with it. So these replicas, they have that micro switch, or the switch in here I was telling you about. So when I put it on full auto, you can hear that click, but if I put it on semi, it's just kind of like a dull, like kind of ka-chunk. And I was having that issue as a persistent problem on the first gun I was working on. And what it was a combination of things that ended up being partly the selector plate, partly the trigger itself, because the trigger, like I said, since it uses the switch, is actually kind of proprietary. It uses a normal TM style V2 trigger. However, it has an additional little like wing on top of it that actually interfaces with the button itself. And so it's sort of spring-loaded, so when your cutoff lever goes by, it fights the tension on the spring and pulls the trigger, or either actuates or deactuates the trigger. So right now it's stuck wherever that cutoff lever is, so it's not going to go. The problem that I was having on the first one is that the cutoff lever wouldn't reset all the way, and so it was stuck on both semi and auto. For some reason it was stuck in the middle, and it wasn't getting a connection either way. So this is obviously not going to work on semi, but on full it should shoot. And now it should shoot on semi because it went past that cutoff lever point. So again, just trying to find, yep, and it got itself in that sweet spot again. I should say the unsweet spot. Right there. Sounds kind of good. No, and then it dies again. I'm literally watching it back itself out here. So this thing clearly needs some more Teflon tape on here. That is something that I'm going to need to go grab. So let me grab my Teflon tape and then I'll be right back. All right. So I came back and I got two things. I wasn't sure which was going to be best, so I brought both. There's currently Teflon tape in here, and it's clearly not doing a permanent job of what I need it to do. So my second solution is Loctite Blue, which is in theory, removable, which is favorable for the current application that we're looking at. So I'm going to rip this thing out. It just comes out so easy. It's pretty sad. You can see that we've put Teflon tape on here before, and it's clearly not cutting the mustard. So I'm just going to yank this off if I can. Okay, a little bit on there. Try not to cut myself as I pull this Teflon tape off. Okay, that should be okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use this paper towel here, move the gun off to the side a little bit, and then I'm just going to drop a few drops of this on the do I even have any? Oh, here it comes. Okay. So in theory, that's just going to coat that. All right. In she goes. Now what I'm going to do is Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of the fact that this stuff is still pretty liquid in there and try to get it set right where I want to, and then I'm going to leave it, and then this gun will be, in theory, done. Not there. That sounds pretty good right there. So I'm going to leave that right there. And hopefully that blue Loctite will sit in. And let's move on to the next gun. So before I move on to the next gun, one thing that I'm going to do, since I'm working on multiple guns, and if you guys are looking to get any tech work, or get into tech work, I should say, and you know, I'd say obviously being able to get your field to give you their guns is a pretty sweet deal. I'm not gonna lie. I've worked on about 10 or 12 guns for the field now, and they treat me really nice. They pay me pretty well, and it's relatively consistent because people are always going to break rentals. So what I'm going to do is, this is the third gun I've done, so I'm going to put a 3 on here, and then I have my notes about what was going on. So 3, loose motor, grip, screw, tightened, and thread lock with blue Loctite. Okay, cool. Now let's bring out the next gun. Okay, so this one has a rather cryptic descriptor on here. It just says battery connection issue. Okay, I guess that's not that cryptic. So obviously we've got some sort of connection issue, and usually what happens with these is I can see that there's already a little bit of a cut in the shielding on the wire. So usually what will happen is that if these start to overlap each other, they'll short. So it's clearly not doing anything right now. And the connector is pretty loose. There it goes. So that doesn't work when you twist it, and it kind of is sitting out. So this one, well, that's actually pretty obvious. Let me just pull this off and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so Tamiyas are pretty well regarded as some of the worst connectors. They're cheap, and they're a little bit unreliable. However, they do have one redeeming quality to them over the Deans, and that is that they broadly don't require soldering. You can literally just get some and clip them on. So this one, I'm just gonna nip these off because the wires are clearly frayed anyway. So with these, what I'm gonna do is just use my splitters here, or my, all right, that's one. That's two. Okay, so those are good. So what's going on here is that it's got this little detent here, right? And it's obviously broken off. It's flapping in the breeze. So that's gonna be no good. So I have with me here some Tamiyas. I have some Tamiyas, I have some Deans. I don't have any other connectors, but I can generally get away with most guns with just those two. Very seldom does someone have any more sophisticated connectors. And if they do, they're probably competent enough to work on their own kit. So with these, I'm just gonna pull off my little connectors. You just kind of bend them back and forth until they rip off. It's really a clumsy process in my opinion, especially considering that these have little barbs on them. Not to be confused with Nicki Minaj fans, but they have little barbs on them, and that's what holds them into the connector here. So I will retire these and grab a new one here. So you can see the old and crusty and the new hotness, right? It's definitely got a lot more detent in it, a lot more retention, I should say. So I know just personally that the negative goes in the square. You've got a circle and a square on a Tamiya. If you're ever working on these, it's better to get it right the first time than to have to go back and redo it. To that extent, what I would recommend is actually just kind of plug in your battery connector to it, and just make sure that the two wires don't really touch, right? But you can essentially plug your battery side in to just the bare connector like this. So you've got your bare connector, then you've got your battery, right? And you can just plug it in the right way. And now you know that, well, this side is gonna be my positive, this side's gonna be my negative. Make a note of that. And make a note of what the shapes are, but you know, just for shits and giggles, I already know what I'm doing here. So what I'm gonna do is just line up the little piece in here, peel back, peel this back a little bit. Okay. And once I get this in here, you want to make sure that you get whatever exposed metal you have in there up as far as possible, as far forward as possible. So it's making a good connection with the battery itself. You'll see a lot of these. Well, I saw a lot of these when I was guilty first starting to work on them. You don't make a good connection between the pin and the wire, you're gonna be in for some pretty irregular connections, and nobody wants irregular connections. We want very regular, very dependable connections. So I'm just crimping these down here, trying to get it as far forward as possible. And then I'm just gonna try to lock it in here with these pins. Give it a nice crimp. And then there's two sets of pins on here. I'm gonna give the rear ones a nice little crimp. Pop it in. All right. Now those should be on pretty good. Again, I'm gonna take my little connector here. I know my little square side is on my negative, so I can pop that in there. My red is the circle side, pop that in there. And then we just shimmy these in. And in theory, they should kind of click once they're in. So I got a little bit of a click out of it. My cat's about to walk across the table. But in theory, well, in theory, that's one thing. It's making a connection, but it's not chooching. Well, that's no good. I think I see what the problem is. I think it's what I warned you about. Yeah, it's the negative side is not giving me a good connection. Hey, baby cat. Well, that's clearly not good. Can you move, buddy? Thank you. Even though you had no choice in that matter, I am going to send a thank you your way. Back this little thing out. See what the hell's going on here. All right. Reclip it. Hey, buddy. Okay. I got a lot of dirty stuff here, cat. And I don't want you to get dirtified by it. Okay, that's what I thought neither side was really in. At a certain point, I just need to cut my losses and get another connector, or another pin, I should say. I'm definitely making a connection, so that's good. My cat is knocking shit over, so that's nice. Doing his cats do. Now he's getting in my toolbox. My literal box of tools. When I say a toolbox, I mean a literal cardboard box that I've been keeping my tools in because I live in squalor, essentially. But it's not all my tools. I have an actual toolbox, don't worry. However, I usually just keep my rapid deployment tools in there. Nothing. Okay. Something else is clearly awry. Let's see if we are. My battery doesn't feel like I'm getting a short circuit. Usually it'll still get kind of hot if it's short circuiting. Oh. field just gives me the magazines with the guns. There's nothing in them, but I should probably take that out anyway. My stomach is rumbling. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I hung out with a friend last night that I haven't seen in a while. It was really nice, and of course we were drinking a little bit more than maybe I probably should have. And the only thing I've had to eat today is 2 pieces of lukewarm pizza. So not exactly running on full steam, so to speak. And that may be why it took me like an hour and a half to figure out the first problem with the gun, but you know, who knows. Okay, these look good, but let's just pull it out and see what we're working with anyway. Okay. So what I like to do, just to make sure I can watch everything happening, is I'll plug the motor in outside the gun itself and see if, yeah, it's definitely not getting a signal. Okay. So that means we've got something else going on down the line here. And now I've got to figure out what it is, because it was clearly working a second ago, but barely, and now it ain't working for shit. So let's figure that out. If anything, I'm comparing where my new connectors are to where the old ones are, and it's definitely, they're in there the same. They're not like missing anything. So let's take the buffer tube out. I would take the stock off the buffer tube usually, but well, yeah, maybe I will. This is the first gun I've worked on from them that actually has the correct piece on the buffer tube. Usually it's a pain in the ass. These disappear so fast and they never show back up. So it's nice that this one still has it. And then I've got my extra long screwdriver that I have specifically for getting into the buffer tubes, because a normal Phillips head is not long enough. And I'm just trying to find a little spot. Interesting. It's a little cattywampus. Got it. Okay. It's nice to have a flashlight on hand so you can see what you're doing. Make sure you're not okay. All right, so that's my buffer tube. I'm just looking for cracks, creases, anything in the line that may indicate that I have a breaking connection. And I can't really see anything that would indicate that, which is puzzling me. So I have a spare motor here. I'm just gonna hook this up and see if maybe there's a motor connection issue, or maybe a motor issue itself. Nope, definitely not getting power. Okay, well that semi answers that question. All right, once this comes off. Bingo. Again, I'm not really seeing anything going awry with my wires here. For all I know, it could be something deeper than just this connector. Even though I doubt it. Right, I'm gonna grab another handy dandy Mousker tool and see if I can figure out what's going on here. Be right back. So, excellent news. I have no idea where my multimeter is, so that's fun. My intention was to use the multimeter to figure out maybe that. No, I don't think so. They're off by a little bit, but that can be remedied like this. See how they're not quite even on height? So what I can do is I can kind of pull the negative wire through here a little bit until they're even. So right now they're pretty much as close to even as you can get. And hope that they go in roughly the same, and it's looking like they will. Still need a little bit more on the positive side. So what I can do, what I usually do I should say, is I'll take my little pick here, push it in there, push that as far forward as it'll go. And that seems like, for all the world, that it's in there. As far as it has any inkling of going. So now, same shit. Take my motor and just trial and error this thing until I figure out what the hell's going on with it. Nothing. Twisting it. Sometimes they can get nothing. That is interesting. Come on, baby, why you gotta be like that? This is pretty much why I hate Tommy, is because even if you're like 100% sure that you got it in there, you can have some margin of error. And that pretty much is the worst feeling. So let me just take down this shielding some more. Cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Well, something like that. Just gonna try to show the air of safety here. At least pretend like I'm being safe with it. Okay. Let's cut down a good bit more. And then, you know what? Let's just pull a little bit more of the insulation off of here and see if that makes any iota of difference as to what's going on here. I tend to doubt it, but you never know. I'm going to reopen these pins here a little bit since I crimped them, and they're I really don't want to get any more out. So here I am, losing my religion. Okay. That clearly doesn't want to connect very well. Nope. All right, new clips it is. So, and that is what I hate about Tamiya's. Over and over and over again, you run out of these little things because it's almost impossible to clip it right the first frickin' time. Just go Deans, guys. Just go Deans. Because you'll run out of pins before you run out of actual connectors, and then you're for sure going to run out of sanity before you run out of anything else too. Good job. Thank you, Kat. Okay, that one, bada boom. Okay, now I'm trying to get this one on and get it with a semblance of being even with the other one. Okay. Now those are about as plumb even as I could get it if I really wanted to. Okay. Now, for the record, even if they're connected backwards, the motor should still run. The fact that it's not is what sort of gives me pause here. Get in there. Okay. That's as good as any Tamiya connection's ever going to be, if I'm being honest with myself. Maybe a little too good. Okay. There it goes. Okay. It was my connection. Now, let's put this bitch back together. So first things first, I'm going to grab my motor grip, which has a single screw in it. Some people like putting them all through one hole. That's all well and good if the motor grip can support that with sufficiently wide holes for the wires. This one cannot, because the motor grip is exactly, the holes are exactly big enough for one wire to fit through. And I'm not about to rewire this thing to set it up in a more preferential manner, because again, these are rentals. And there's only one screw in the motor grip for some reason. Okay. Jabbed my finger with that connector earlier, that pin, that was not fun. Okay. So remember what I said earlier about the Tommies potentially shorting themselves? Well, I think we found our answer as to why, in my infinite wisdom, it wasn't working. Okay, I've still got the screw in the back of the motor grip here. So I'm going to take that and bada boom. Someone put a completely different screw in here than the other guns, because these are supposed to be like coarse threaded wood screws almost for the plastic, and they've got machine style fine threads in here, so it makes it a little bit longer to screw them back in. All right, so once that's in, good and tight. Okay, now let's do a sanity check and just make sure it still works. For whatever reason it might not. Perfect. Alright, I'm exceptionally happy with that. So now let's just put our stock back on and call it a day, I guess. Okay. I know I have too many things going on my desk. So this piece goes on here. These wires will rest up in this little top area right there, like so. And clearly my negative is a little bit longer than my positive. Don't ask me how that happened. I couldn't tell you. So now what I'm going to do when I put this in, I am going to hold this upside down and drop this bad boy in there. And then I can kind of pick this up a little bit. And then I'll try to get it to seat before I then take my screwdriver and ultimately send it home. All right, it's easier to do this if I can look down it. It's hard for you guys to see, but it's way easier for me to see. All right, I'm in. Again, do another sanity check, make sure nothing got pinched or prodded or whatever the case may be. Yep, still works, still shoots fine. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna slide this bad boy right in. Oh, well, maybe not. Okay, those are good. line it up, send it home. One mag, take my little piece here, slide that little guy in there, take my butt plate, definitely not mix and match, right? And pop that in. And then we're almost done here. So one last thing that I need to do is grab my little piece of duct tape, rip it off, pop it on here. Then I will label this a W number 4. All right, and now all I need to do is describe what I did to fix it. Going to put all my tools back in my rapid deployment toolbox so I can clean out my workstation. All these are garbage, 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 garbage. So, one other little pearl of wisdom I'm going to give you guys that stuck around this long, which I imagine is maybe about 5 people. These are what beads come in from, like, the art and craft store. My wife does arts and crafts, and these little things that the beads come in are perfect for shims and screws. If you have extra screws, extra shims, little tiny pieces, these are great because you can see from the outside what they are. They're effectively free. You get them all the time from a bunch of different places, and they suit the task very well. So lastly, number 4, Tommy week. All right, that's it. Thank you for joining me on half the job. If you enjoyed this, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy it, leave a dislike. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks.